Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the New Hamburg Board of Trade podcast. I'm Richard.
And I'm Gina. And we're pleased to welcome Annette from 3D Prototype Design in New Hamburg.
Woohoo!
Hello, everyone.
How are you today,
Thanks for joining
Annette?
us today.
I'm doing good, and thank you for having me.
Perfect. So 3D Prototype Design Inc. is located here in New Hamburg.
Yes.
And we're very grateful to have such a cutting edge business in our town and in our township. And Annette's going to tell us a little bit more about that later on. But maybe just start off, how did 3D Prototype Design come to be, and sort of how did you set up in New Hamburg, and what's been going on over the last 20 plus years for you guys?
Well, 3D Prototype is actually sort of like a son to a parent company, HD Patterns and Match Plates, which was established probably about 45 years ago, I think, and in New Hamburg. Actually, the owner originally started on Waterloo Street and then moved to our Bully Street location just across from Nithview. And a lot of people who do the big block in New Hamburg probably pass that building going, what's in there? So we'll tell you a little bit more about what's in there. But HD Patterns did traditional pattern and mold making. And then in 1996, the technology came out for 3D printing. And most people are really surprised by that it's been around even that long, because people are still just learning about it. But at that time, the owner and his son actually had decided to start a new way of doing things, and that's with 3D printing. So we had acquired our first 3D printing machine, and then we've grown from there.
Wow, that's awesome. So parent company and now 3D Prototype Design, always in New Hamburg.
Yes, exactly.
The things you learn, I had no idea. That's awesome.
I know most people would never even know. Like I said, you'd walk right past it and go, "What?" It's one of those things you don't even know.
Yeah. It's not a retail store that you'd go in every morning for your cup of coffee or something like that, right? So.
And very few people actually would even need it or to think to look for it, because it's such a very specific demographic who needs it. Mm-hmm. Surprisingly, at least for us, it is anyway, but we can get more into that.
Yeah, well, why don't we start there? I guess maybe can you give us a brief overview of the different services that you do offer?
Well, basically, we do 3D printing. That's our core business. It's not like flashy, but we take customer supplied 3D CAD file drawings. And then from that, we build the prototypes. So if you'd like, I can give you just a super quick 101 on the process that we use and how we do it.
That'd be awesome.
Because it's not usually what people think it is. So basically, we take that 3D CAD file and slice it into layers, like 0.04 of an inch thick. So that's the equivalent of 2 hairs thick. And then we feed that information to our computer. And we have this big machine. There's many of them, but this particular one, there's a metal plate that's, let's say, 10 by 12 inches. It's a little bit bigger than that. And on either side of that is a vat of nylon powder. So very, very fine plastic that's been ground up. And then what happens is that machine heats everything up 10 degrees below the melting point. The bed drops down 0.04 of an inch, so the equivalent to a layer of a part. A roller goes across, lays out the powder, and then a laser comes along and melts whatever is going to be a solid. And whatever doesn't get melted stays as a powder. And the powder acts as our support structure, which I can kind of explain to you more when I show you a couple of samples. Then the bed drops down 0.04 of an inch. You don't get to see it. It's not the sexiest looking 3D printing. It's just not like you see it growing in front of you. It's actually kind of growing underground. Layer goes across again, and then the top layer melts to the bottom layer. And it keeps going until that has a full build done. We take that block of powder out once it's cooled down and dig through it like an archaeological dig. So just imagine going into the sand and you're digging out for relics. So we dig in, find the solid pieces, bead blast of air, and then the parts are ready to go. You can tap them and drill them and snap at them and treat them like you would an injection molded part.
Okay.
Wow.
So what Yeah, and I guess maybe this goes into a little bit more of the next question as well, but what industries do you primarily serve with those kind of services?
There's quite a few industries actually. A lot of people think that it would be 100% automotive, which is what I thought when I first started. And it's all over the map. It can be automotive, but it's usually mechanical engineers and designers who are working on pieces, components of things. So it could be like back in the day when we first started, we were actually doing 3D printing for rim for the Blackberries.
Oh, very
Oh,
cool.
very cool.
So what they would do is, and we could still do it today, but the technology we have is a much nicer final part, but they would have them printed with us. They'd send us the CAD drawing 3D.
Yep.
We would print it and then they would take it, put their components into it, snap it into place, and you could use it just like it was the actual Blackberry.
That's awesome.
So we mostly industrial, though, to swing back to your question, mostly it's an industrial type of base. It's not so much for hobbyists or people looking to replace like a toaster knob or that type of thing. That's the kind of thing where it's better just to buy a toaster knob.
If you can even
Fair.
find one.
Yeah, I was gonna say if there's supplies there.
Yes, exactly.
That's sweet. Yeah, the local companies working together to put, you know, Waterloo region on the map, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And-
exactly.
And back in 1996, when this new technology emerged, I imagine that it was not used largely throughout, you know, even Canada. So back in 1996, were you guys really an early adopter of that technology?
We were actually the first company in Canada to own and
really?
operate 3D
Wow.
printing and offer
Yeah.
the services. So we are like, in fact, the longest running 3D printing company in Canada. And we're still in business, which is fantastic. That says a lot for our services and how we treat our customers. And in the beginning, when I started working with 3D, which was 20 years ago for me, my job was purely education, because most people didn't even know what 3D printing was. At least now people have sort of an idea. Often it's not a very accurate idea. There's sort of like that Star Trek replicator fantasy, which we have not been able to obtain, versus the reality, right? But yeah, education was a huge part of it in the beginning. And now it's more about getting right down to the nitty gritty on the capabilities and that kind of thing.
Yeah. So I would hazard a guess that there's few people that understand it better than you then, if all you ever did for all that time was talk about and teach people about how it works.
It's so true. You know, it does say 3D printing expert on our website, which connects to me, and that's no joke. And sometimes I'm very brutally honest with people because I don't want to waste their time.
Right.
Like often you need things right away, or you have a budget in mind, or whatever or maybe what we do is we can't do it. Like we can't do what your expectations are, or that kind of thing, right? So I'm usually very brutally honest with people because who's got time for that? So that's what I do now. Now it's a lot of, these are the capabilities, this is what we can do, this is what we can't do.
Yeah. What we do well, and otherwise, you know, let's both move on.
Yeah, a lot of times if we can't do it, it's not doable the way people are thinking. I've talked to so many different inventors, and I've even dabbled in a few things on my own. And it's really, what we do is one piece of everything. It's just one step. So if you were doing, let's say you were making a new laptop, well, we can do anything that's in the plastic or the housings, but we're not going to 3D print for you the electronics, the screen. It's not going to be shiny. It's not going to be in, you know, color and that type of thing. So yeah, there's a lot of education still, but in a different way.
Very cool. Maybe you could show us a few things that you maybe brought today, and that'll help us understand more about what it is that you're able to do.
Yeah, for sure. And then I'm also, at the end, I'll show you something that we invented and that we came up with that a few people in New Hamburg know about. So when I was talking about the material coming out in a block and the powder acts as a support structure, in some of the processes, you have to physically go in and remove it, remove the supports. Think of like building a box with two glue guns. If you were to build a box of 2 glue guns and you were just to squirt out the first one and then put one on top of the next one, once you get to the 6th or 7th row, that thing is going to get kind of warbly because it's hot and glue and molten. So you have to have supports to hold everything in place. With our process, the powder stays in there and it's all packed in. So we can build almost the impossible. And this is actually an excellent, this is a concept of a building. It's super scaled down, but it has a heart sort of built into it. And you can see like all these teeny weeny little details. This is maybe about 7 inches high. So imagine this coming out of the build, and that's all full of powder. Again, like you're playing in the sandbox and you're trying to clean out a toy is basically what it is, right? So we can 3D print some really cool things that you can't even traditionally manufacture. This one I've actually had since the very first day that I started. And because our parts are nylon, they can be washed and sterilized as well. But what makes this really cool is that this is built all as one piece, which is not something that can be done with traditional methods. So these gears actually all move and spin. It's kind of hard to do. It works much better on a table, but they all do like spin. They're all intricate. And because there's just a very small gap, maybe about 4 hairs thick, in between each part that's not touching, when we take it out, we can remove the powder in it. And that's what allows it to be able to function. Another cool detail part, like this one's super thin. And because we're working with nylon, this is not traditionally the kind of part that you could 3D print because it wouldn't have this type of flexibility at all.
Right.
And then a lot of our parts, people will run fluids through it, gases. They're used obviously for automotive, some testing in lab equipment and lab facilities, like we've done MRI housings, and because they can be sterilized and they're plastic, they work really well for that. But this one's a really neat one, which we briefly touched on before we started, and you, Richard, identified that right away, that it was a knee. But what makes this super cool is, first of all, it's been bashed all to heck. Not cool for the person this belonged to, but this actually, the data for us to build this came from a CT scan. So the
cool.
CT scan takes the bone and then somebody will extrapolate from the data and remove anything that doesn't belong. Then it's converted into an STL file, which is what we build with. And then we can build this. So this kind of thing works incredibly well if you had an insurance case where you needed to go in and prove the amount of damage, what's involved, like this is what happened as a result of this accident. It's also really great for surgeons pre-surgery if they need to explore things in an actual physical setting. Now we have also like incredible 3D technology where you can look at it on the computer. But as you all know, when you print something off of your computer, a letter, you always find one typo.
Exactly. Yeah.
I don't know how that is, but that's the case. So there is something definitely to be said for having like a hard object to actually physically manipulate and hold. But we've done a few different components that were used, like from body parts. If you want to hear my theory on this, and I don't think I'm too far off in this, and I've been saying this for years, I really believe we're very close. Actually, we could even do it now, but there's not the money in there for it. At a certain point, when we all hit maturity, or when the population hits a maturity level, they'll pick an age like 18 or 19. What they'll do is give our bodies a full body scan so they can catalog our knees, our hips, our liver, kidney, like soft tissue, as well as like bone tissue. And then they'll be able to extrapolate from that. And then 60 years from that, you need a new hip. We could build you your hip and implant it, which the technology actually does exist to do that today. You can print things into titanium and you can implant it into the body, and it's been done before. So, and they're working on different 3D printing to produce soft tissue. I think it was kidneys that I last read that they were working on, and they're looking at replicating skin and that type of thing. So I don't know how far we are from totally replicating ourselves. But for sure, like I don't think it's that big of a stretch to go, you need a new hip, we're going to give you your 19-year-old hip, like when you were 19. And then one last little fun one, actually, this house is a scaled down model of a house, and it's built in several different layers. Actually is in New Hamburg, this house. So the house was built first, 3-dimensionally, and then it was like physically built. So
that's cool.
Yeah. So that's just a couple of fun little things.
Yeah, as you say, super broad scope of what your capabilities are, industries that you serve. That's just fantastic about, how you're able to help with the human body all the way to reconstructing a house or those gears. Were those gears functional, or was that just to showcase, what could be done?
Yeah, it's purely like a showpiece.
Yeah, it's just to have fun with.
Because what do you do with it? It's just a widget, right?
Yeah.
But it is a really neat thing. And people who have an engineering mind, it's interesting when we have a trade show, which hasn't happened in a while, but when we have a trade show, this piece, and it's as old as the hills, always gets the attention because that engineering mind goes, how did they do that?
Yeah.
How did they make that? And then I go, oh, it's one piece. And then it gets the gears turning, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
And luckily it can be sterilized.
Oh yeah, actually I after trade shows and meetings, even pre-pandemic, I would bring everything back, and we can wash them in the sink with palm olive or any kind of dish detergent with hot water, and just lay them on a towel to dry.
Yeah,
perfect.
Use a scrub brush, like an old toothbrush or a scrub brush, or just a brush of any sort would work. Yeah.
For those archaeological sort of digs, do you use the same tools, or is it as simple as a toothbrush?
Yeah, it's a toothbrush, dental picks, and a scrubby brush, pretty much anything you might clean your bathroom with or your teeth. So that's pretty much it. But when they're taken out, the tech on our website, actually, there is a really cool, quick little video that shows the parts being taken out. And that's where the misconception of how 3D printing actually works for some people really comes to light, because when they see that, they go, oh, that's not at all what I thought you guys did. So he wears really heavy duty gloves because sometimes it's molten hot.
I was gonna say it'd be really hot coming out, I'm sure.
Yeah, but ideally we want to let it cool off as much as possible to prevent it from warping, because as soon as if it hits that cold air too quickly, it can warp, and then the whole build is tossed. So we don't like to do that too often.
I wouldn't imagine so.
Yeah. I don't know if you're interested, but I wouldn't mind showing you the little invention that we actually came up with.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, great. So as we all remember, the pandemic hit and there was panic. And we had a lot of people contacting us about 3D printing a contraption to make a face shield. And we looked at that, and because we can never just do what we're told, we always want to try to make it better, lighter, faster, cheaper, whatever. We looked at that and went, that doesn't lend itself well to what our technology is. So it was basically like a clip that, or like a banana clip, for girls with the hair that went around your face, and then it had an elastic. So we, within a matter of like 2 months, not even, had come up with this idea, prototyped it, tested it, written our proposals to the government, and had it already in the marketplace because we drew it up, 3D printed it, tested it, modified it, 3D printed it, tested it. So this was our version actually on what we ended up doing. And we called it Clip 19 after the pandemic was in COVID-19. It's actually been a really long time since I've had to put one on here. Normally I have them already in place. But basically, I'll just like mimic it for you. It slips on to the edge of your glasses like this, the frame, and then you just wear it like this. And it's really lightweight. the reason that we did it this way was we honestly were thinking end of the world pandemic. I'm not even joking. Like, we're like, how can we save as many lives as possible? I didn't sleep for a week. And we were working on ideas nonstop because we thought everybody must have a pair of glasses or sunglasses where they can pop the lenses out, or their grandfather's old glasses, or you've got, even the dollar stores were still open. You can go get a cheap pair of readers. So our thinking was, how can we get this into the hands of people as quickly and economically as possible? So that's how we came up with the Clip 19. And there were several people in New Hamburg, actually, and they were being sold in New Hamburg, and we still sell them online.
Cool.
Yeah. So
if we're walking around and we see those, we know exactly where they came from.
Yeah, I actually, I'm in Toronto, and I had an appointment in the Michael Garron Hospital, which was actually one of the first hospitals in Toronto that was responsible for testing and the COVID cases. And when I went in for my appointment, the technician, who I'd never met, didn't know, was wearing our Clip 19.
Sweet.
Like, crazy.
I made that.
Yeah, I said, oh my gosh, I made that. The company I work for, we did that. I actually didn't sleep for nights. How do you like it? So it's been,
cool.
that was really gratifying, actually.
Yeah,
When
for
we could
sure.
see
That would be.
people we were helping, it was really good.
Real world gratification and an endorsement, right? So that's cool.
Yeah, because we're like one of those companies, like we're basically people who just want to help. Like, we're really like genuine and honest people. And like I said, you know what, if we can help you, we want to help you and do your 3D printing. But if we're not for you, then we're just not for you. And when we had an opportunity where we genuinely thought we were going to save lives, we were like, okay, sleep is not important. Saving lives, that's what matters.
So I guess just building off that as well, has the pandemic affected your business in any other way? I mean, that's a very positive way that, you've kind of turned the pandemic into something that you were able to help with. But has there been any other effects for you guys?
Yeah, actually, specifically too. In our industry, we always seem to get hit later than everybody else, we find, which is, it's crazy, but that's how it is, because we're kind of at the end of the line of the design process. So we did sort of feel it a little bit further after everyone else. But mostly the biggest issue that we faced was our customers didn't know what they were doing anymore. Where do I work? Am I still working? Are we still doing this job? Or, do we keep going? I have to work from home. They had to set up their computers. They had to figure everything out. So there was definitely a bit of a lag there. But because of the way we work, we're always in pandemic mode the way we work. Like I was just saying, I only downloaded Zoom today because we don't actually have to have face-to-face interaction with people. You send us the CAD file, we build it in our facilities, it's molten hot. We have one technician that takes the parts out. The machines do all of the work. So, and then it goes into a box with FedEx and you get it the next day. So that's kind of how the pandemic was for us. As far as we were concerned, it was just still business as usual. But the more recent interesting thing that we have found is that term that you may have heard is that the global supply chain crisis, right? And I noticed about 3 or 4 weeks ago, I started getting a lot more phone calls from customers and existing customers going, hey, we can't get a hold of this doodad or this item. Is that something you could maybe build? And then I heard on the radio, IKEA is going to have a shortage of components. And I'm like, holy smokes, IKEA, that's going to be really devastating for a lot of people. So it's not just like the little tiny companies or small companies. It's like from the littlest person like me trying to build a fence in my backyard, trying to get the bracket is like, everybody has one story where they're like, I can't get blank right now, or
right.
the piece to repair the dishwasher or whatever. So this is where we can help out. Now, the caveat to that is each person, like I was saying, don't contact us to help you with that toaster knob you can't find, because it's not going to be cheap. You have to have a CAD drawing. And there's a lot of reasons it should go through professional channels. Like, we would never want to build a part for your car because it's plastic. There's a lot of reasons that piece is $200 from Toyota, because they had a team of engineers. They did rigorous testing. They're liable if something goes wrong. We would never want to build a piece to replace your steering wheel. And there's a lot of reasons, right? So, but anyway, I did put the 2 and 2 together about this global supply chain thing. I hear the IKEA thing, and then I'm getting the phone calls. I'm like, hey, wait a minute. Yes, that's the ticket, because we do plastic parts that function like an injection molded part. I actually have another fun little sample here. This is a piece on our website. We have a full K'NEX digger tractor that we built. It was over 600 pieces. And our head technician and his son assembled it all at home.
Oh, wow.
I was 7 at the time. But what's really neat about it is, like, they function like the K'NEX part. So they have like a snap fitting type hinge feature. And I think, know if you can hear it, but it snaps, right?
Yep.
So to have a component that functions like an injection molded part without having to build a mold is a pretty cool thing. And especially since you may have heard this over and over again, but Kitchener, Waterloo, New Hamburg, that Tri-City area, Cambridge, Guelph, we were really hit hard 25 years ago, 30 years ago, because that was the real hub to have things manufactured. There was, countless places, CNC machining, molding, injection molding, like it was huge. And then all of it started going out the door, and it was going overseas. And a lot of companies were devastated and had to shut down, right? So not that you want to see this kind of catastrophe happen, but it is sort of gratifying to know that maybe we should all take a look back home again and do what we can do at home and start supporting local businesses. I mean, I've been buying it, local grocery stores, like the smaller shops, and buying little things online from somebody who's knitting or making little things, like it doesn't have to be just those little things. It's even like small businesses like ourselves and others in New Hamburg, where we have a real opportunity here, not just because it's the right thing or a good thing to do, but because it might be the only thing you can do.
Quite true. Quite true. A good reminder for us all, because I know we have amazing businesses in New Hamburg, just like yourselves, right? That we might not know too much about. And that's what's so great about this podcast, is that, we get more information about what's out there and the kind of services that we have literally at our fingertips in New Hamburg, right?
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
And it's that's actually another good thing about being in New Hamburg, is that it is pretty central to a lot of different places. Like, nobody from New Hamburg wants to drive to Toronto to pick up parts, but people are okay to go, hey, I live in Mississauga. I wouldn't mind a nice drive, look at the fall colors and pick up my parts there, or Burlington or that kind of thing, right?
Yeah. So, the traffic is great out here.
How many traffic lights now? 2? 3?
We're up to 3.
No, I think there's 4. There's 4 just on the highway, and there's one at the crosswalk at Peel Street. But
I forgot.
We're growing.
Everyone says it's such a nice town. They love coming here. We've got lots of great restaurants that they can eat at. Lots of great little boutique shops they can shop at too, if they're out, picking up their own personalized knee.
Hey, I never go to New Hamburg without a visit to the bargain basement at Home Hardware.
Yeah.
Yep. Can find some good
Another
deals.
hidden gem of New Hamburg.
Right?
It is. I've actually taken my daughter there, and she's like, I didn't know. I said, we've been talking about it for years.
Yeah. I think it's the only Home Hardware that has one.
I think so too. That was genius on their behalf. Larry Taylor, I think that was back in the day. Yeah.
Yep. And sort of to wrap up, what else do you like about operating in New Hamburg?
Well, I know for me, I do a commute every once in a while, so I don't have to be in there every day, but I know that the owners love it because it's 3 minutes from home, and which is excellent because our business relies on hydro and power. If there's a power outage, everything stops for us and we have to restart. So being in the same weather zone is also very helpful. But I love the fact too that people are always surprised that where's New Hamburg? What's in New Hamburg? It's like, what isn't in New Hamburg? It's a great little place.
Yeah.
So then eventually people go, oh yeah, that's near this place, or I've been there and I've seen, the waterfall and I've been on that river, and then people start to remember. But it's a great little community. So that's one of the things that for me personally, I really like.
Super.
That's fantastic.
Thanks again for joining us today, Annette. We really enjoyed hearing about 3D prototype design
And seeing some prototype designs. Those are pretty awesome.
Yeah, I might have to grab a pair of my grandfather's old reading glasses, pop the lenses out, and get a clip 19.
That's right. Maybe we should get the stores where they're being sold in New Hamburg. We can put that up on our
they are anymore, but on our website at 3dprototype.com we have them. Yeah.
Sweet.
Awesome.
We'll put that in the notes.
We'll put that link in the notes.
show,
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you.
It's something that, unfortunately we still need.
Yes, that's true. We're still packing things up every day. Not as many, that's for sure, which is great, because honestly, we would have rather not had to do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it was good that we could help people when they needed it. So
for sure.
Thanks again, Annette.
Thank
Thanks
you
for joining us.
Have a great day.